I'm sure there's a lot of dumb shit about tri-types out there. And, this I think will just be funny us talking about why why the different names were chosen or what it evokes. And like much better at getting at the tri-types instead of being like, this is the king or this is the scholar or this is the whatever, because this is like you're just making fun of everybody. It's like it's a little bit neutral. So like we're shitting on everybody, and it's also like you don't meet a king, you meet a Whiny Tears.
The big hormone Enneagram.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres for the 5-wing 458 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with 1 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4 with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe us on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
Yeah. Like we all know that there's somebody that's like, like a Stockholm syndrome. Like you meet that person.
Yeah.
So anyway, and a plus, like, I don't know if any other podcast has done just like the tri-types.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of a fringe concept, it seems like.
Not many people even talk about tri-types. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't believe in that.
Right.
And we should start saying trifix. Fuck trifix.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Trifix.
I think what I also like about this podcast is like actually funny Enneagram stuff coming from it rather than just dumb shit. You know what I mean? Like there's like no sense of humor in the Enneagram.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And a lot of times I think the sense of humor can be an effective way to get people to understand stuff, concepts and ideas, because humor is much more honest sometimes than just trying to be accurate on its own.
Probably works as a memory thing too.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely.
And you'll probably know like a Kyle, like, oh, that's a Kyle in my life.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Big Hormone Enneagram. Today, we are going to be talking about what Harry Potter house are related to the types. Just kidding. We hate Harry Potter. Today, we're going to talk about the trifixes. Trifix is a concept meaning trifixation that Oscar Ichazo came up with. And it's been subsequently adapted by Catherine Favre, and she calls it tri-type with a little bit of variation. This is the way. The idea is that you have a dominant type. You're a 1, you're a 2, whatever. And a 1, for example, is located in the body center with 9 and 8. But 1s will have a way they relate to their emotional center and their self-image, which will be expressed through the lens of type 2, type 3, or type 4. So if you are a 1 with a 2 fix, that's going to mean that you have qualities of the 2 in how that one-ishness is expressed. Likewise, the thinking center of the 1 will be expressed in the style of one of the thinking types, 5, 6, and 7. So when you put these all together, they kind of make a very specific flavor and a very specific archetype. And we have been drawing on that vocabulary and using some of that in some of these calls, or podcasts or whatever. So we're hoping that this is a way to better understand the energies and qualities of the trifixes without sometimes I see people mythologizing and idealizing certain trifixes online and then denigrating others. And so I hope this will just humiliate all of them.
Yeah.
We want everyone to equally hate themselves.
Yes. The Favres have their names for the tri-types, and for a lot of the tri-types, it's just not very either accurate or adequate. For example, I believe for 458, she calls it the scholar, which is too generic and doesn't really describe doesn't really get it. Like, what are you, if you say the scholar, does that give you any sort of sense of what the 458 archetype is about? No, like just a bunch of names a lot of times. So hopefully this adds a lot of color to what these tri-types and archetypes are actually like, and shits on everybody at the same time.
I think it actually gets to the accuracy just with the Enneagram all around to dig into the ugly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've found these trifixes really helpful when talking with David, just because I sense people's energies before I really can figure out what exactly they do that makes them this, that, or another type. So I've found them really helpful just because I can be like, oh, I have a picture of you in my head now and I can judge you.
Yes. Hey, David, I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on getting at the ugly and why that is so helpful in clarifying type. Like, why not just dwell on the healthy stuff? I think that's a really good point.
What would I say there?
What would an entity called David Gray say in this situation?
What would a human speak?
What
say?
would I just say? Huh?
That's an Enneagram dad joke.
Well, let's see. Well, I don't know. It's just real. It's just more. It articulates it better than if you're talking about positive qualities. And Enneagram is hell. It's hells, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are all hells. These are all really bad problems. Trifixes are a certain, like a ricochet that forms a shape or something, and it architecturalizes up into a theme or themes that keep repeating, just like a theme, it just keeps repeating a pattern.
What that evokes for me, though, why I think it's helpful is because, yeah, as you're saying that the types do represent hells, and while there's things we appreciate and are funny and things that are like valuable and useful about all the types, it gets at a lot of the major themes and purposes, I think, of even having this podcast, which is trying to get away from this sort of hyper redemptive, hyper positive, like everything is healing and moving towards goodness, and trying to jump over the ugly, because the point of seeing the Enneagram is to see the ugly. The point is to see what we're stuck in, where we actually are, and not to try to congratulate ourselves prematurely for our health or well-being or whatever, because we can clearly see that we live in a really fucked up world. And if you do inner work is not about getting as healthy and positive and good as you can get. It's really about seeing what's here and encountering the jungle of your personality and making the unconscious conscious, which is not necessarily, or doesn't feel like, at least, a redemptive healing journey. It feels like an encounter with the mud.
Yeah, it helps with self-observation as part of what you're saying, right?
Yes.
The more clearly articulated how the ugly manifests and the particular flavor of the ugly and the flavor of the mud, the more you're going to be actually catching yourself in the act of doing the patterns.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also helpful to know the negatives, just because we as humans probably tend to know our faults better than we actually know our strengths. So people probably would find it easier to relate to like the hell of their personality than the like airy fairiness.
Yeah.
Well, I think Nancy, I think it was in the end of the last call with OD that you were talking about, no, or maybe it was the call before that, I don't remember, but you were talking about being a Bermuda type and 9 or 3, 9, 6, and the kind of feeling a call to be part of the universal thing, like being the universe needs you in some way.
Universal citizen.
Yeah, it's a universal citizen. Yeah.
And, like as a 4, whatever, I hear universal citizen and I cringe, right?
Right.
But then hearing the way that you understood that and the way that you expressed it, and what it meant for you, I thought was quite beautiful. And it made me appreciate that in a way that my 4-ness of wanting my individuality, like hyper narcissistic around individuality, I could really appreciate that energy, and it didn't feel so antagonistic to my both trifix and main type.
David, you talked about how the attachment types are kind of tapping into some kind of like the universal or the human family, like the universal human family. Like we're all part of something greater than ourselves, and how that tied into like why attachment types tend to have something called a work ethic, to get up every day and I have a part to play in this big human family.
And to get into some of the ugly is there's an anxiety then about that participation, right?
Mhm.
And that keeps it going. You've got some concern, some actual concern about your role and whether you're doing enough, whether you're doing it right, and how much you should be present and the significance of your participation and
Or
how
the
big or small.
crushing awareness that someone else out there is also doing what you're doing, but probably doing it better.
Yeah.
That's my 3 take on it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that mean that as a Bermuda 3 that the sense of comparison is even more intense for you?
Probably, because I'm, like I said, I'm just crushingly aware that like I'm just totally average. So so it's just so as a 3, it's like like I remember one of my managers one time, he was like, if you ever like lose your your work ethic or whatever, just think about how someone else out there is working harder than you. And I literally just wanted to turn around and scream at him and be like, that's my entire life. Like, you don't get to say that to me.
Yeah, before we get into the trifixes, what I think will be helpful and useful for listeners is understanding triadics. And triadics is the idea that throughout the Enneagram, there's repetitions of 3s. And it's sort of like if you can identify a trait or a quality in one type, very likely, more than likely, 2 other types also share that trait. And what you end up having to do is put together these different layers of triads. And so there are, if you're listening and you got like a pen and paper, this might be helpful to write down or just to have as a visual. So if we go along the Enneagram, the first triads, set of 3s, is obviously the body, the heart, and the mind. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what all these mean because we've covered that, and you probably, if you've followed along and been interested in this podcast thus far, you probably have some sense of that. But body types 8, 9, 1, heart types 2, 3, 4, mental types 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's the main triads. And when we talk about those are the centers, and when we talk about a trifix, we're marking one type in one category of the body, one type in the heart, and one type in the mind. But building on that, and we just referred earlier to attachment. Attachment is the object relation triad, and I'm not going to go into all what that means, but there's three categories of object relations, which are attachment, which is the type 9, type 3, and type 6. There's 3 categories of frustration, which is an object relation, which is type 4, type 1, and type 7. And then you've got rejection, which is type 5, type 8, and type 2. So that's the second grouping of triadics that we'll be drawing on. Third grouping, called the Hornavians. I believe this was from the work of a woman named Catherine Horney, who I think Naranjo attributed to the Enneagram. And I think Naranjo also attributed the object relations to the Enneagram types too. But anyway, Hornavians. So the withdrawn types, 9, 4, and 5. The aggressive or assertive types, 3, 8, and 7. And then the superego, or also called compliant types, they're most identified with their superego, 6, 1, and 2. Finally, the fourth triadic that we'll be drawing on is the harmonics. And these are, I think that Don Riso and Russ Hudson might have put these on the Enneagram, and I think that they're in Wisdom of the Enneagram, if you're interested. But beginning again with 9, there's the positive outlook types. These are types that tend to look on the bright side of things, not necessarily like the good in things, but there's a way that sort of like, let's get this over with. So that is 9, 7, and 2. It's kind of this, if you were to map it onto the visual of the Enneagram symbol, it would look like a 3 that skips a type. So 7, 9, 2. The competent types are 1, 3, and 5. And then the emotionally reactive types are 4, 6, and 8. And you put all these together and you get a really clear sense of where you're you're stacked too high on a particular quality and where you're missing other qualities. And so, but you start to see what you're really like Nancy, who you're speaking to, is a triple attachment type. So that's going to give her a lot of things that we'll get into when we get into the Bermuda Triangle.
A lot of uselessness.
A lot of uselessness. Whereas like I and Emeka and I are both the same trifix, but different main types. So I'm a 4-5-8. Emeka is an 8-5-4. And so what that means is that we have 2 reactive types, 4 and 8. We have 2 withdrawn types, 5 and 4. We have no positive outlook. We have 1 competency type, type 5.
No compliant.
No compliant, no superego. And 2 rejection types, 8 and 5, and then 1 frustration type.
And 2 reactionary types, 4 and 8.
2 reactionary types. So what that, that would help us to grow. We need to sometimes engage that positive outlook, and we need to sometimes consider what a super ego would feel like. And it shows you this layout, this bias. There's so much we could go into. Maybe we'll go into more at the end of why that's used.
Why should anyone give a fuck about trifix?
So at first, the most easy and practical thing to see about it is how different people of the same type and even type in instinctual stacking can be, and how the thinking processes and emotional life and the way boundaries are held in the body center are so radically different, even with people of the same type. And you start to see why you resonate with certain people and other people really turn you off because they're either expressing qualities that are difficult for you or they're very antithetical to your trifix. But also, like I was just saying, you see where you're sort of over heavy in certain facets of the Enneagram and where you're really lacking. And if you want to understand other people and yourself, you need to see both of those things. You need to see, oh, they're coming from, whatever, and you're coming from wherever. But, it's just like expanding the use and capacity and insight of the Enneagram, because it's getting far more specific than just knowing, this dude is a 7 and he, I'm relating to this 7 through this stuff. Some 7s are extremely outgoing and extroverted, and others are far more introverted and don't seem like classic 7s on the face of it. So how do you discern the difference? What's going on there? How are they relating to their aggression? How are they relating to their self-image? And how is their thinking, process?
Yeah, I think for me, because when I first got into it, Enneagram just seemed to have so many different concepts and so many things you needed to know, and I wanted to find like an origin sort of way to integrate everything that mattered. And so I would tend to tell people that every human being has a heart, head, and body, and a way of managing each of those centers, like different centers of intelligence, and that your core type is in one of those centers, but you still deal with the issues of each of those centers in a certain way. And I tell that to people from the beginning, so that they can think about those 3 centers and the way that so in my heart center, this is how I handle heart and self-image issues. But you have a core type, which is your home center. But the way you're dealing with those other centers shapes the way that you express, or they come together to express a certain life path and certain archetype. And it's really important to understand how you're dealing with, if you're a body type, how you're dealing with your heart center issues and how you're dealing with your head center issues. Like, you have to actually know that. It's not an option. So just to get people to think that trifix is not like a nice to have concept, like it's actually important, just as figuring out your core type, to know, how am I dealing with heart stuff? How am I dealing with head stuff? How am I dealing with body stuff? And of course, to figure out like what is the core center that I'm in. But all those centers are important. So it becomes an essential concept. It's not just something it might be a nerdy thing that you need to know. This is some important shit that you need to work on, Yeah. So
yeah, I think this is where like the real work comes in. Like, it's nice to know all about your type, but I feel like this is where the rubber meets the road, I guess.
Trifix also just illustrates, why there's so many different kinds of people. There's not just 9 kinds of people, right?
Yes.
And if you do, 27 trifix archetypes times 6 stackings. I think that's like 162 types.
Yep.
You know, so that's the other aspect of trifix, is just the colorful cast of characters. For one thing, speaking from my 974 triple fantasy, just all the different colors, right? It's just it's a lot of different flavors, and it's different shapes and styles and energies.
In terms of getting at where people who are listening can find more information, there's not a lot out there, but I really recommend David Emeka with our friend and frequent guest Joseph have a website called Enneagrammer.com. And then David himself has his own website called Enneasite.com. And they both have really good distinctions and gestalt kind of vibes where you can get a feel for the energy of the type.
Yeah, and David
Fixes.
came up with something called fixes and stems, which is really helpful in terms of if you know your core type, then you can look at how your secondary fixes come together. Like you can look at the 3 types coming together as an archetype, but you can also look at 2 types coming together as a stem, which can say if I'm in core 8, then my 5 and 4 fixes sort of shapes the direction that my core 8 energy is going into, which is more internal underworld existential type of focus for an 8, which would be unusual for an 8. So the stems, the fixes and the stems can make it easier if you know your core type to say, okay, where is my core type energy going? And having that as a way to conceptualize tri-type has been helpful.
And so again, just to be clear on the concept, so like if you're 854, and the term stem means you've got an 8-5 stem, you've got a 5-4 stem, and you've got a 4-8 stem within your trifix.
So we made a list of names that are supposed to kind of roast each trifix. Yeah, so we feel like the best way to understand them as in terms of just listening and going through them is not to give you these sort of long expositions of these sort of big archetypes and blah, 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 but to roast each type, because you might not have met a warrior, king, prince, scholar, but you've definitely met a Kyle, or you've definitely met a Bermuda, or you've definitely met, whatever. And so each of them are roast. So we're going to, hopefully if one hurts, that's yours. And we came up with I started making a list of names, and then all 4 of us contributed, and then an executive committee of the chief council of Enneagram Universe, also contributed. It's not just that we all came up with these names, like it was a collaborative effort.
And they're not just roasts, they're also accurate. They're trying to accurate roasts.
Accurate roasts. We're not going in like, 947 or 794. We're just going to go 479. And that's going to cover people who are dominant 9, dominant 7, or dominant 4, but have that combination.
Yeah.
So that's clear. So it's not, we're only going through, we're not going through every.
This is not going to be like a 3-hour thing.
Yeah. All right. So the first trifix combination is 479, and we call this, And
that's David.
This is David. And David.
Tell me about myself.
Yeah.
Well, he does say a lot.
Well, part of this combination, you've got 9, 7, and 4. So you got 2 positive outlook types, 7 and 9. And you've got 9 and 4, which are both withdrawn. And all 4 of those types have a kind of imaginative quality. And so, 7s often project about the fantasies of the future, and they have a sort of idealistic sort of outlook. And 9s can be the philosopher of the universe that is just sort of out in the stars and in space. And so 9 and 7 together create this very elfy kind of star child. And then with the 4, you get this also the sort of romantic and the star child that can go into the caves. And so you get this little cave elf thing. And so a lot of times, and then so there's just this sort of naive, imaginative, not very grounded, not very practical combination. And when you first meet people like this, often you're like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
Almost like overly creative for its own sake when it's not required. Just constantly
To be creative, just to be creative.
Yeah.
yes, feeding on its own creativity. So it's just like sometimes it's like, dude, what?
It's got stars in
Sometimes-
its eyes, kind of quality.
Sometimes David kind of reminds me of like really slippery slime. I don't know if you guys watch those
Yep.
slime videos, but like when you try to grab slime and it just goes through your fingers and through your hands and you can't really grab it. And,
There you go.
Yeah.
and it's just, but it's stuck to you, but it's not stuck to you. And yeah, that's what.
So
Yeah,
imagine
that-
that. So verbally, that would be like, what the hell is this? It's like,
Yes,
huh?
exactly. You're like, oh, so we're talking about this. And they're like, well, no, because I don't like being pinned down to this one thing. So really, we're talking about this.
It's got a Peter Pan quality. Is part of it.
Yeah, it's
all-
like fantastical depth and just overly imaginative fantastical depth, which is like you can't actually grasp what the fuck this is.
Yeah.
And
But he
sometimes-
also doesn't grasp it.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the extra huh.
Yeah.
David doesn't know what the fuck is going on either.
And you know, so 7, 9, and 4 are all types that don't like to be pinned down. Like they all have a way of like 9s disperse, 7s mercurially jump out, 4s like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
So when all those are working together, it
Yep.
makes it very hard to like grab anything concrete. But like they might say like our friend Tara, who's been on the call, will like say things, and there's things that are like really beautiful in what she says, but you're sort of like lost in like, wait, what is this about? Like, huh?
Yeah. It does have a kind of druggish psychedelic thing that's part of the
Definitely.
Yeah.
psilocybin.
And the tri-types, trifixes show up in the collages really well too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else to say about this? We want to keep going.
Got to keep going.
Yeah.
All right. 4, 7, 8 is called Revolving Door Rehab. And we got 4 and 8, which are double reactive types. Reactive meaning like they want to know where you stand, and there's a lot of push there to kind of get at what's really happening, kind of make things happen in that sense. Like what's real here. And plus with the 7, so you have probably in each center you have the most, in a sense, uninhibited type in terms of self-expression. Like 4 can be very self-conscious, but at the same time, 4 is also like let my freak flag fly. And so then you're amped that up with 7 and 8, where it's like we're gonna have more chaos and we're gonna expand with that 8 energy.
Mhm.
And so, you know, you get some pretty intense flavor of personality here where it's like very all out there and both highly individualistic and highly like let's start some shit.
Yeah, highly into their own pleasure, just into their own
Yeah.
self-interest. So I liked revolving door rehab because you can't escape the theme of drugs with 4, 7, 8. It's especially when you have 7 and 8 and 4. There's not a whole lot in there that's saying that you shouldn't
Indulge.
do this. Yeah, you should indulge in whatever it is. And so, I mean, there's definitely a long history of 7s that get into drugs, but I think when you have 8 and 4 fixes,
It's reminding me of Amy Winehouse is probably that.
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah.
And she's a 7 with an 8.
So does this trifix have any competency at all?
No
Nope.
comment.
Okay,
That's
that
the
makes
other
a lot
thing.
of sense.
That's the other reason why it's
'Cause
No
it kinda-
attachment, no compliant.
Yeah, it kind
Yeah.
of struck me as that person who's like really into the party and is not going to.
And
take
it's the
himself,
biggest
like,
brat.
Wake up in a ditch.
The biggest brat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, huge bratty energy. And yeah, it's like even if the person is like a dominant type is 4, they're going to be the most loud, intense, showy 4 with a lot of energy to counter the withdrawnness.
Prince, right?
I think Prince
Well,
might
no.
have a 1 fix.
Yeah, I agree
that's
with that
right.
as well.
That's true.
Yeah, I
you're
agree
right.
with that.
You're right.
I mean, I know
Gotcha.
John doesn't think Bowie's a 4, but I think I agree that Bowie likely has a 4, 7, 8. I put him there, and he has a huge massive drug problem.
That lasted for years. Yeah.
Yeah, like just ridiculous drug problem. Who else has this tri-type?
Yeah.
Part of why I mentioned Amy
know anyone?
Winehouse was
yeah,
because
yeah.
she's got a
Drug
song
overdose.
about rehab.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I feel like this trifix would just stress me out.
Oh yeah, you'd be stressed. Yeah.
I think what Picasso is this tri-type. Marlon
Really?
Brando.
Oh, I love Picasso.
Oh yeah, that's correct. I think both eights with 7 and 4.
Anthony Bourdain, I believe. I think we had.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that makes sense, Bourdain.
Totally. Yeah, because that's interesting looking at Bourdain, because you got 7 that's positive, and then 4 and 8 is like really negative, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right.
And he could really zero in on the gritty and the ugly.
Right.
Cool.
All right.
Anyway, next
we got 4, 6, 9, and we call this Whiny Tears.
Why would we do that?
Why would we do that?
Yeah, somebody else take this one. Why would we do that?
Well, okay. There is, I think, in each center, 4, 6, and 9 represents the body center in a way, like giving your power away, or at least 6 and 9 are giving their power away.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being persecuted by some outside force.
Yep.
And in the heart center, 4 is I'm already persecuted. I was born persecuted.
Yeah, reality persecuted me.
So it's like the 3 believe that they're hurt and persecuted, and everything is out to get them. So it's like it's negative in a self-victimizing kind of way, and sort of wearing that sort of dramatic I'm the victim on their sleeve. So Whiny Tears.
Because 4s already kind of do that.
Yeah.
And then adding the 6 and 9 is just like piling it on top.
It just makes it pitiful. That's
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just
Louis C.K. is a good example of a 6 with, I think that's that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he's that kind of, I mean, forget the big story about him or whatever, but just that style of his is very much that whiny thing.
And they can easily go, especially with like a 4 in the lead, go into a kind of a brooding existential place, but it's not necessarily they're going to be literally whining and literally tearful, though I think that's probably common for this trifix. But it's just there's a sense of self-pity that's really a big part of this trifix.
Call it one of the terms I've had for it is Charlie Brown, if you guys are familiar. Which is just kind of it's really mopey, like looking down and just it's a certain flavor of poor me.
Yeah. And even just any 2 of those fixes, like anytime you have 4, 6, and 9, any 2 of them alone will get you some of that mopey, poor me quality. So this is like mopey on steroids.
4 and 6 together are both reactive, so it's like reactive, but it doesn't have the 8 or 1 punch behind it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's like this is what's going on for me, but it doesn't have the kind of fuel to make it
I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't mobilize about it.
Robert Smith is a 4 with this combo.
That sounds right.
And his music is very, very Whiny Tears.
Totally. Yeah.
All right, next up, this is 4, 6, 8.
Oh.
So it's 3 reactive types. It's called the Public Display of Affliction.
Yeah.
Who wants to take this one? Go for it.
Well, what would I say about this tri-type? I think this is probably the most publicly drama instigating tri-type. I mean, because the 3 types are each reactive types, which is I want to know where everyone's at right now. Like, and 6 is by itself a fire starter. It's like a spark plug, wanted to call out inconsistencies constantly. So that alone itself can be very dramatic. And then 8 is out there forcing people to take a look at those inconsistencies. And then 4 is like the self-persecuted drama queen. And so when you put it all together, it's just a flame torch.
Relentless
I like
drama.
the word. Yeah, I like the word incendiary.
Yeah.
These types, it's like, the name Public Display of Affliction is because they're going to publicly display fucking every little thing that is not right. And not necessarily just like public in the sense of like maybe they're a social type or something, but it's just like there's not self-containment in this tri-type. It is all
That's right.
reaction all the time. And the way they think they can resolve all the drama they're going through is to have reactions that get everything clear and and like out on the table, all the cards out there, and let's hash it out.
Yep.
And so it's like their own attempts to solve the situation that they're in terms of their reactions is through the lens of reaction. And so it's like an itch that's never quite scratched. The reaction creates more reactions. It creates reaction to the people. It's like, what do you mean by that? And, it's just constant shit going on.
Yeah, the 6 and 8 combo kind of always trip me out because 6s are kind of very focused on like getting the crowd to be behind them, like getting other people's like, kind of just gathering allies. And then 8 is very like, oh, I don't give 8 and 4 kind of I don't give a fuck what you think of me. So then that 6 is kind of it's just a weird kind of
that's a weird
combo.
inner conflict. That's another way too to think of with the trifixes is what are the conflicts between them? Like each of the stems, they gang up on each other, right? Like that's a real problem. 4 and 8 ganging up against 6 because 4 and 8 are natural.
6.
I know, and then the 6 does not like to be ganged up against.
And 4 and 8 are individualistic, and 6 is wanting to belong. They're thwarting each other. Let's see, 4 and 6, you got a piece of the Whiny Tears there versus 8, right?
Yeah,
8's Whiny Tears, right? And so there's a certain kind of but all the trifixes have these kind of internal oppositions like that. 3-way oppositions where they're fighting against each other, and that's part of the hell.
I think a good celebrity example of what can be good about this tri-type is Joaquin Phoenix, and he's probably my favorite actor. And one thing that's good about 4, 6, 8 is that they are so, it feels like fire and blood, like bleeding out whatever reaction that they're having. So when you watch Joaquin Phoenix, I love watching him because I feel like he's one of the most expressive human beings I've ever seen in terms of just expressing everything, whatever his face is. He's just bleeding out human experience. And what what I could like about 4, 6, 8 is that this is like the most bleeding raw trifix.
Yep.
Next up, 4, 5, 9. This is the Hateful Ghost. And what I like about this is that my ex-girlfriend is a 4, 5, 9, excuse me. So you have 3 withdrawn types. This is a very withdrawn stacking. And it's very common for people who are just withdrawn in general to think they're this trifix.
Oh, yeah.
But
True.
Why it's the Hateful Ghost is because, yes, they've got this ghosty. They're usually not that present in their body. It seems like they're like, if light hits them too hard, they're going to evaporate. But at the same time, you get past some of that like soft outer ghostiness and they're fucking hateful and frustrated. That 4 in there, like even if they're a core 9, that 4 in there is still going to create this tension or frustration. And then you've got 5 and 9, 5 and 4, which are both separating themselves, even though the 9 part wants to connect.
Yeah.
So there's that's where the inner conflict gets set up.
5 has its own kind of negativism along with the 4 negative.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say that if a 9 had 5 and 4 fixes, that they could be like the most negative 9?
That's probably true. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, most negative 9 that would have this trifix.
Yeah.
And like they're probably very likely to see themselves as a 5 or a 4 if they're not core 9, just because that philosopher of the universe thing is going to be really intense here. So this next tri-type is Emeka and I's, and this was named by my dear wife. 4, 5, 8 is the useless beast. And what you got is 2 reactive types, 4 and 8, a lot of being my own person, individual stuff. Then you got 2 withdrawn types. So even if we've got this kind of like, we're all out there being ourselves, doesn't go very far because these 2 withdrawn types kind of make this tri-type useless and impractical, and it's like coming out with a lot of energy at certain times and needing a lot of alone time, and that alone time is not spent doing anything useful.
Going into the underworld is 4 and 5, right?
Yeah, I've said
that's kind of
living
useless, right? It's like the daylight world is the useful world, right?
Right.
Yeah, 4 and 5 is in the useless world.
I struggled for a long time in my 20s when I couldn't figure out why I couldn't make anything happen that anybody else cared about. And it helped out to recognize like everything I give a shit about does not matter to the general public for the most part. I spend
And-
way too much time on 5-4 shit that it cannot be monetized on a grand scale.
I'd be really interested to see what like a social type of this trifix would be, because to me, like, it's just three very not smooth types.
There was a guy that came to the group
Yeah.
that David and I know. It was one of the first collage typings that David did, or readings that David did, who's social self-pres 8,
What?
who's of this
Yeah.
tri-type. He came into the group and made a little splash when he was trying to get everybody's attention. But he's got a YouTube page where he does typology videos, and he's out there, but he's still very withdrawn, you know?
Yeah, and this is one of the more individuated trifixes, in the sense that you got 4 and 5, which are about separating from others and being against or negative in some way. And then 8 is very bold about being against and bold about being negative. And within each sensor, they're probably the most individualistic types. And most, like, there's a sort of a part of the useless beast quality and underworld quality that David's speaking to, is like there's a particular like pride in their own personal insight, inner vision, that they're very they're not holding back about expressing.
Yeah, it's good that it's called useless beast, because a lot of people idealize 4-5-8. It's a tri-type that most people think that they are. And it doesn't really, I don't think people really understand how self-involved or like just stuck in your own inner world. The stuff that you might be into might not be useful or interesting to anybody else but you.
And it's pretty negativistic. It's
right.
Isn't Werner Herzog that common?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
he's a good example.
Yeah.
I mean, he's legendary in his own right, but he's legendary for being Herzog.
And so describe him for a second. I mean, what's
Herzog is a filmmaker, German filmmaker, who's probably one of the most one of the most singular voices in all of filmmaking. He taught himself, and he has his own very specific style, and the subject matter that he tends to focus on is just exploring the underworlds in terms of, he's SPSO, so he goes all around the world looking for what he calls ecstatic images. Like, he wants to find images in filmmaking that capture this unexplainable sense of what it means to be human. But
it's tends like the dread of being human.
Yeah. So he tends to explore subject matters, like he'll explore like what it's like to people who have never seen or heard anything, or these dwarves who are trying to figure out how to escape the asylum, or how to talking to people on death row, or exploring this guy who loved bears and was killed by one, and really getting deep into that. So it's like just getting underneath the skin of different aspects of what it means to be human. Like, you're not gonna be comforted by his film.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly the opposite of comforting. It's the hell of hell.
Yes.
If you're, for listeners, Google either just the term, or YouTube, overwhelming and collective murder, or Herzog, Herzog, on the obscenity of the jungle, and his speech is just like,
it's perfect.
I just cream to it. It's just so
good. And the guy is like a meme, like because they'll have books or children's books where Herzog reads children's books, and he's just talking about the existential dread of humanity. I picked up the coffee cup, and in that moment, I realized we are all going to die. It's just something like that.
Honestly, if you just look at his pictures on Google, it's just like it's terrifying.
Well, it's not even the horror of death. It's like the horror of having to live, and just the horror of having, like that overwhelming and collective murder. It's like the
Yeah.
teeming filth and like the transition of a fruit into its bacteria and
Right.
fungus. And,
It's all
you
of
know,
that. Yes.
So
Oh.
one of my favorite movies
Lovely.
of all time that I resonate with more than most other movies ever is his version of Nosferatu.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Anyway,
Yeah, so he's a good example of that archetype, and I hope people, based on this roast of 458, recognize like it's 458. It's not that great if you think it is.
Sure.
yeah, if you want to like just have your eyes roll into the back of your fucking skull, just Google Enneagram 458 or whatever, and you'll
I know.
find these people on like some dumb fucking obscure personality cafe website or whatever, going on and on about how fucking badass they are and intense, and they're like, it's so self-indulgent and boring, and it's totally wrong. It's
Yeah.
like somebody's like, oh man, I'm so this and I'm so that, I must be so much feeling and so much insight and so much intensity to 8, and it's just like,
Yeah.
shut the it's just masturbating on some
Mhm.
forum where you get like little upvotes or whatever, because it's so fucking dumb.
It's just not catching the hell at all
No.
of it. Yeah.
Just like, I'm
Yeah.
really fucking cool.
I was at IEA a couple of years ago, and I met someone who told me that they were 458, and I pulled out, hey, so that means you would absolutely love H.R. Giger art, and I pulled out some. If you don't know, H.R. Giger is an
Disturbing.
artist from he's an artist of this trifix, and his art is nightmare
Inspiration
landscapes.
for the movie Alien.
Inspiration for the movie Alien.
Yeah,
is a
it's
big one. Yeah.
disturbing.
Yes, yeah. So I showed it to her, and she was so disturbed, she got up and left. And it's like people
And that-
idealize. this
That's the
trifix,
correct
but-
response, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, that's the normal
yeah.
daylight living human person response.
exactly. Whereas
yeah.
the people who are identifying as 458 are just not even close to that space.
Well, it's like that
Yeah.
space is beautiful. That's where the good stuff is. Like, it's not. I don't know. I guess it seems more real that you have like the worst of it represented.
You're saying it's beautiful from your perspective as that trifix?
It's beautiful. It doesn't. If I see like bright, whatever, it's not
Yeah.
pretty. It's not beautiful to me unless you have incorporated some depth of hell. Like, there has to be
Right.
some alluding to that to some degree.
All right, next type.
DJ,
The DJ. This is E79. This is
drop the bass.
what I started making this list was based on, Ilaria has all these like hippie friends, and they're all DJs, and it was and her dad and her brother, her brother, and her ex-boyfriend are all this type, and it was just like, holy fuck, they're all DJs, and like literally actually DJs or musicians or something. But this type is the DJ because it's like the 9 and the 7 come together to be like kind of upbeat. They want to, the collective of 9 and the 7 both have this sort of like, let's uplift the collective. And the 3 like actually makes it happen through some kind of profession or role or job or whatever. And so these types are consistently, and there's something hilarious where people of this tri-type, even if they're not actually DJs, will start to actually like be like, hey, here's a song, like, like actually start dropping beats, and
They're the
crazy.
one that plays the music on the road trips.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even just the music, but kind of DJing everyone's collective experience.
Social
Like,
scene. Yeah.
here's
Yeah.
a link. Hey, what do you guys think about this? All right, here's another link. What do you guys think about this? Try to get everyone excited and into, some kind of collective party.
Like there's a woman in the Facebook group who's that combo. She's a 7.
Oh yeah.
And she's DJing in the way that she's starting new threads.
Yep.
Right. She's like really, really trying to, come on, guys, let's get something going here. Let's get some fresh beats. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
3-7 energy.
Yeah.
Upbeat.
Yeah, there's a thing about engagement with this. Like this might be the most friendly and engaging tri-type, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very socialist.
My friend is staying with us. He's a DJ 7, and we had a 4th of July party on our roof last night. And like, I mean, I know that there's the whole COVID thing where like it was sort of a reaction to having not been doing shit, but he was just talking to everybody, and it was just like, dude, we got to go to bed. The sun had risen, and it was like, just turn it off for a second. But it was just constant engaging and chit chatting. And, he's a social type too, but there's just so much of that kind of engagement.
The beat had to keep going.
So with that 9, does it ever stop?
Well, I think the 9 is probably what like gets them sort of spread out across different people and different social groups. I think I had
It's part of the likableness is the 9, and it's also why they're not. So they're also not combative because they don't have 1 or 8, right?
Yes.
Right. So it's got a certain.
It's like this is the person who has the capacity to be the most popular person in class, or someone that, I mean, the Bermudas have like universal likability. This has like almost like a cool guy.
Yeah, it's like
cool guy. It's also sort of that upbeat athlete thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
It
just makes me hate them a little bit.
A lot of the guys that you hated in high school because they like everybody liked them,
right?
Were DJs.
Well, and the next one.
Yeah. Well, so this one is the most likable one. The guy that you hated.
Oh, yeah. Okay, true.
All right. So the next tri-type is the Chad or the Stacy, 3, 7, 8. So you got triple assertive types. And so there's a lot of egoism, very little doubt, a lot of self-confidence, expansion, putting it out there, loud, things bounce off them easily.
Image conscious.
Yeah, there's like a weird mix of like you could like criticize them or try to hold them accountable for something. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
but at the same time, they're concerned about their looks and appearance and
it's kind of like they're doing the looks and appearance thing through the 8 thing. Like the 3 is kind of moving through the 8.
Yeah.
It's also triple, to me, confident. Like each of these types are sort of cocky. An example, a celebrity example that I liked as a kid, as just because he was a foreigner who sort of just took the United States by the balls, was Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I think is likely 3, 7, 8. Just it was like his whole existence was, I can confidently take on bodybuilding. I can then stop that and go do movies, and then I'm going to stop that and go do being a politician. It's like, what can't this man do? Just never-ending confidence, and he's just like that jock Chad that you would just hate.
And I don't know if you guys agree, but I think Bill Clinton might be that 3, 7, 8.
I got to think about that one.
But
it's possible. Yeah.
I also think about this tri-type is that they're in real danger of being dumb, and part of that is because of the confidence that Emika's speaking to, and it's like when people joke about certain hot people like not being very smart because they can just coast on their looks. It's like this tri-type can coast on their charisma, on their energy, on sort of just the forcefulness of their personality, but not feel that they have to do much about their inner life. Part of what being an assertive type is, an 8, a 7, or a 3, is that there is a certain way they can hold ego boundaries against themselves. Meaning, most people, it's like they're enacting any kind of agenda or moving toward a goal. And if you're a withdrawn type, especially, it's like certain impressions come up, and you're very sensitive to what's coming at you from the outside, but you're also sensitive to what's coming at you from your own unconscious. And this type can be very split off from their own unconscious and just like have it's like a lack of feeling that there's a mystery inside in a certain way. And so it's just outward expansive, big Chad Stacy energy. Last up for this episode is our favorites, the Bermuda Triangle, 3, 6, 9. You got 3 attachment types. And as we've spoken to in other episodes, attachment means that there is some way that in the theory of object relations, that some of what they divide into the protective function and nurturing function, so kind of roughly mothering role and fathering role, is outsourced, meaning that in early development, you're supposed to integrate the nurturing function, meaning you're able to see yourself, your identity, mirror yourself, love yourself. And then protective function is, how do I move forward in the world independently? How do I create structure? And so all these types have different ways that they outsource those things. They don't integrate them fully. And so the weakness in that is obviously that there is a lot of difficulty in separating who they are from the outer environment and outer influences. But a lot of the strength comes from that too, because there's this profound openness and there's this profound sense of being connected to a greater whole. And our fair Nancy is a Bermuda.
It's got a
Unfortunately.
it's got a familial feel to me because of all of that, of everything you just said, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are always telling me that, oh, I just feel like I can tell you anything. I just feel safe. I didn't want to hear any of it. So great. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it in anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's all become part of my myself.
I want to say real quick, the reason it's called Bermuda Triangle, this name was given to us by Farah, who's been on earlier calls, is that things get lost in them. It's like
Yeah.
hard to find their ground. There could be kind of this like hamster wheel of like, what about you? Like I kind of can't land anywhere in my own type. It's like I'm going out over here, and then over here is not a solid ground, and over here is not solid ground, and so it can kind of things get lost, and they get lost themselves.
It feels to me like with Bermuda types that they don't their left hand doesn't know what their right hand is up to, and it takes time. My best friend is a Bermuda 6, and I always know that, let's say he wants to talk to me about something that's going on, I know that there's going to be an unfolding of things that will be revealed that he has forgotten himself and won't tell me until, oh, actually, this thing that I could have told you 3 months ago is the central reason why this whole problem is that I've been having. And I got, even though it's the most important thing, like, so there's an element of obscuring what they're up to, themselves obscuring what they're up to. So they're not sure. And you need someone else who can kind of like point out, like, okay, this is what you're up to.
And one
Dude,
thing
that killed me.
And one thing is that, just being abstract here, that equilateral triangle is like an abbreviation for a circle, right? Like that would be, if you were going to do a circle in the Enneagram, like the most efficient way to do it would be on that triangle. So it's cycling through, and it's the center of each center, right? So center of the center of the center, like circle, 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 right? So things are getting lost, right? Because it's an efficient way to keep spinning, right? Is that triangle, and because it doesn't have any odd angles, right? It's equilateral.
Yeah, so it doesn't stop spinning.
Yeah, so stuff gets lost.
So I feel like a lot of times with Bermudas, the opposite of what they're saying is contained within what they're up to. So
100%. Yeah.
So it's like you go one way and you just wait a little bit, they're gonna go the other way.
Yeah.
You can stick me in a room with someone and I can find something I relate with.
Yeah.
I can't relate to anybody. And you know, like in contrast with like our tri-type 458, it's
totally.
It's like my thoughts and feelings and impressions are generally very clear and immediate, and it's like, this is where I stand. This is where I stand.
Yeah.
And then so with Bermuda types, you got, like, I think that they really need I think they often seek and look for a certain kind of consistency because and value consistency because they lack it in themselves, and so they start to kind of trip over themselves in a way. And you know, when you're like, well, how do you feel? There's a lot of ping-ponging and Bermudaing and circling and whatever that they have to go through. And, you know, like OD in the last call, like, you know, astrology is like an external force that he can kind of ping himself off of to get where he's at.
Yeah. And our relationship, me and OD, there is just an interesting chemistry between 458 and 369, because not to say that I always seem to know what I want, but it seems like I can have a solidified sense of what I'm about or what I'm doing, and I can sort of cut through the bullshit for other people. So he like, I think that's an energy that he gets from me, is sort of being able to, this is actually the thing that you want. You can just stick with that, like, instead of going in all these different directions. And I think for me, what I get from him is just, there's a sense that he can pull in from a lot of different outside influences, and it can open things up for me in terms of not getting too specific and negative in a way that's maybe not always useful to me. Like there are other possibilities that involve other people.
Well, and something about being so open too is they've got this. We spoke to a little bit earlier with Nancy, just like that sort of collective channel and oracle almost. Like
Mhm.
I forgot to mention, but I did a session with OD since the last astrology call, and it was fucking incredible. And it was like he was reading my life, and it's this like this open channel. So like on one hand, we like roast Bermudas all the time on this call or these podcasts or whatever. The other side to it is being really like open to like the divine or the skies or the oracle or being like a vessel of something.
When I was coaching, I would be like I did a lot of coaching via just phone calls. And I would be on these coaching calls, and a lot of the coaching I do is through physicality, like what's going on with your body. And I would be able to be like, oh man, I just experienced this in my right arm, or I did this with my body. And they're like, oh, I just did that too. And it's not even a question. I just know what's happening.
Mm.
If I really tap into it, it's not an issue.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does that give you like a superhuman 3 ability of being able to tap into where people are at in terms of their value? Does having 6 and 9 almost make you like a better channeler of what people are wanting and what they're about?
I think I get what you're saying. I'm not quite sure I get what you're saying. I had it for a
Welcome to
second,
Bermuda
but
Triangle.
now it's
It got
gone.
lost.
It's gone. It spun into the middle of the triangle,
going,
never
was
to be found
going.
again.
It went into the sea.
Well, I guess for a 3, my experience of this 3, it seems like they are the 3 that can absorb the other the best, or they can channel the other. So does that mean that you, for a 3, can have a better sense of where someone is at, because you have 6 and
In other
9?
words, a 3 is usually thought of as having sort of an agenda,
Yes.
that's going to lock out people in some sense because you're self-interested.
Mhm.
But with 6 and 9, there's so much absorbency there.
Well, yeah, I think that's what made me really good as a sugar baby, because I would be able to have these guys who are all very different. Like, not to go into too much detail, but some of them were like lawyers, some of them were doctors, some of them were really, really sweet, and some of them were really not sweet. And so, I could walk into the room and instantly, like, first time I'm meeting them, I could be like, oh, you want this? Gotcha. I got it.
Yeah, it was just being a Bermuda that made you a good sugar baby.
Yeah, nothing else. Nothing about the fact that I have a banging bod, I'm super hot or anything.
There's the 3 we were waiting.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, but it was super easy, and it wasn't even like I would have to kind of wade through
The whole
guys.
podcast. I mean, the whole time we've been waiting for that. And
Yeah.
it
These
was
guys
lost
would,
into Bermuda.
yeah, these guys would be like, "I'll pay you to just have coffee with me," and I was like, "I don't have that kind of time, hon." Sorry. But that's seriously, because it's just easy.
So you could really tap into what dudes are wanting because you could sense it.
Yeah. I can sense it, and especially if it has something.
She
to
could
do with
tap
sex.
that.
I can tap that. Yeah, if it has something to do with sex or men specifically, I can tell you exactly what they want. But when it comes to women, I have no idea. So
That's interesting.
yeah, that's why I don't bang many women.
That's cool.
Well, I've got a volunteer for you, as you know.
I know. I got to get Brian on the wagon about that.
Yeah, well, Brian's not included in that deal.
But he doesn't have to be included. He never said he'd be included. She's all mine.
So wait, okay, answer this. What as a Bermuda 3 do you feel qualities you're looking for in a partner that you appreciate about Brian, for example? What makes Brian a good boyfriend?
What makes Brian a good boyfriend? Man, I wish he was in the room for this. I think one of the biggest parts is like when I'm trying to get words out, he waits. He doesn't ever talk over me. Like, so, and that's like
I'm
so
doing
much.
now?
Exactly. Like all of you do to me every single fucking podcast. That's why I only want to have sex with you and not date you.
It's working.
That's not bad.
But it's like
that was
so
actually what he wanted to hear.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so much more than just having like a discussion or an argument. It's like every day he makes plenty of space for me to just ping pong off myself a million times a day. And then I come back and he's like, oh, you're back. Okay, let's have dinner. And it's so he creates a space to wait for me.
So he's like steady
to where I want to be. Yeah. And he'll kind of just follow me wherever I go. And then he's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And he supports me. It's just that kind of steady, even, easygoing, but he's not just gonna, let me walk all over him.
Right.
But it's steady.
That's cool.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All right, guys.
Well, we're gonna get, for the listeners, we're gonna get to the rest of your miserable tri-types next time.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be great.
Joy.
All right.
Later,
all right,
dudes.
bye.
There you go.
Bye.
Sometimes you gotta close the door to open a window.
I saw a photo, you look joyous. My eyes are green, I eat my veggies. I need to get her out the picture. She's really fucking up my frame. She's not developed like we are.